Hello, my Facebook friends. It's my pleasure to be back with you this morning, this afternoon, wherever it is you are. And so I'm going to continue the discussion about gender stereotypes. However, I always like to start with a quotation because the co-parenting relationship, for it to work, it has to embody civility and mutual respect. So here's one of my favorites. The greatest thing a father can do for his children is to respect the woman that gave birth to his children. It is because of her that you have the greatest treasures in your life. You have moved on, but your children have not. If you can't be her soulmate or his soulmate, then at least be thoughtful, be civil. Whom your children love should always be someone that you can acknowledge with kindness. Your children notice everything and will follow that example. Civility and thoughtfulness, these are lifetime social skills that are important to the people who we become and how we eventually serve and show up in our society. So the co-parenting relationship is one where we are constantly teaching and sharing values. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the stereotype of moms as caregivers and dads as breadwinners. Now, these are traditional stereotypes that go way back, but we need to think honestly and sensibly about them because they are no longer relevant to the societies in which we live. Remember now, in many countries, men have paternity leave, right? In countries like Canada, men can get paternity leave, and in many Scandinavian countries. So, the caregiver role is not a gender role, and even if it was assigned that role traditionally, we have to move on now and look at the facts that women are working as hard as men. They are in empowered positions, financially and socially. But we are running the business of raising children. And this is we are turning out the next generations of people that we want to be proud of. So I am exhorting every parent to not hold fast to these traditional roles. Dads can change diapers. If you separate and the baby is a year old or 6 months, you're going to have to change a diaper. You're not going to run back to the mom's home and say, oh, I can't change a diaper, so you have to change it. If it means making a bottle of formula or making some food, you can't run back to mom and say, oh, I don't know how to do this. And the same, how would we respond if we had a spouse and the spouse got sick and we had to make food? So these dichotomies that we have manufactured over the years, they are no longer relevant and they are no longer workable. We are a team of 2 people in the business of raising children, and therefore we have to change the diaper, we have to make the bottles, we have to take children to school, we have to take them to co-curricular activities. There are no gendered roles anymore, and they do not make sense, certainly not in a co-parenting relationship. And the breadwinner, that breadwinner label, it has been extremely damaging to men. And now where women's salaries are catching up, it is not only a little intimidating, but it is something that we have to sensitively and delicately maneuver in a co-parenting relationship. A man cannot be stereotyped as a breadwinner in the same way the woman is stereotyped as a caregiver. Earning is what we all do or choose to do, because we have needs to be met, financial needs, we have bills to pay, and the children are part of that equation. So we need to be sensible in our discussions And that's why civility is important. And we have to be honest. And if there is a case where a dad cannot meet what the court has assigned him in terms of a figure, then we have to be reasonable and sit at the table and see what is workable and how we can negotiate. Because there are terms and conditions on which we can negotiate. And that is left to the two people. But I will just give one scenario, for example, that I knew of. This couple separated and the child was very young, under a year old. And he kept bawling, oh, I can't pay this, I can't pay that. And eventually, even though it was done in a very crude manner, because he basically came up and said, oh, if I have to pay that, I won't be keeping the child for so many weekends, etc., etc. So in the end, the mom had to say, okay, for the regularity and stability of the child coming to you every other weekend, I will take a percentage cut. And she did that not because she could afford to do it, but because it meant regularity for the child, support from the dad, and just a more peaceful life. And I know this is difficult and different for everyone, but I'm just asking us to step back from these hard and fast labels, which no longer make sense and are so damaging to us as individuals who are still in a relationship. Whether we call it a business relationship, whatever it is, we're still in a relationship that needs civility, that needs thoughtfulness, that needs sensitivity. And that is just a part of what we are manifesting and showcasing to our children. That ability to negotiate, to problem solve, to manage conflict in a way that positively impacts them and not negatively. So I'm really asking each and every one of us to remember that dads, we are still human beings. Moms, dads are still human beings. Each and every one of us in this relationship is a human being who is feeling, who is hurting, who is learning, and who has the desire to do the best for their children. And we have to predicate the relationship on that we are each trying to do the best, even sometimes it appears otherwise. But for the purposes of, we must enforce civility, and we have to cultivate that ability to say, oh, this person is first and foremost a human being. This is the person that has given me the greatest treasure in life, my child. And moms, we have to say that to them as well, even though we too may be hurting and things are not exactly how we would want it. So in looking at this issue of stereotypes, it has really given me time to step back and to just share with you my own thoughts about the fact that we need to focus on each other as human beings with real needs, trying to do our very, very best. And we have to constantly be listening to each other and making adjustments as the children grow older, and try to erode these stereotypes which have boxed us and which haven't served us well, and allow the men to grow into some of these roles of responsibility. Because I can share with you, in my case, I'm looking back, my children were never given the opportunity to overnight with their dad, and that was his choice. But I am looking now that if I were living and raising those young children today, whether or not he decided, I would say, this is your weekend, you need to figure out whether you live in a one-bedroom or a studio, how you are going to accommodate them. It is your responsibility, it is your duty, it is your job, and you need to do it.